My name is Leah. I'm 32, and until last month, I thought I had the perfect marriage. Ryan and I built what everyone called a dream life in our beautiful Boston suburb home. 7 years of marriage, countless memories, and a future that seemed secure. But everything changed the night I pretended to be asleep. The whispers from our bathroom weren't meant for my ears, but they cut through the dark and shattered my world. Sometimes the people closest to us hide the cruelest secrets, and my husband never knew I heard every single word. Before I tell you how I uncovered my husband's betrayal, let me know where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe. If you've ever had that gut feeling something wasn't right in your relationship. I always prided myself on being a driven woman who worked hard for everything I had. My career in marketing didn't happen by accident. I climbed from intern to executive through late-night strategic thinking and refusing to let setbacks define me. Success was my comfort zone professionally, and I thought that extended to my personal life too. Ryan and I met at a charity gala 9 years ago. I was there representing my company, and he caught my eye immediately across the crowded ballroom. Tall with dark hair, warm brown eyes, and a smile that seemed both confident and kind. He worked in investment banking, and when he approached me with a glass of champagne and a genuine interest in my thoughts about the charity's mission, something clicked between us. Our first conversation lasted 3 hours, long after most guests had left. We talked about everything from our career ambitions to our shared love of historical documentaries and spicy Thai food. By the time we exchanged numbers, I already felt more connected to him than anyone I dated before. Our romance moved quickly after that. Weekend trips to coastal towns, surprising each other with small, thoughtful gifts, and introducing each other to our friends and family who all approved enthusiastically. Ryan was attentive, intelligent, and seemed to genuinely support my ambitions. When he proposed 11 months after we met during a sunset hike overlooking the Atlantic, saying yes felt like the easiest decision I'd ever made. The wedding was everything we wanted. Not too large, but elegant and joyful, with our closest 100 friends and family. My father, who rarely showed emotion, whispered how proud he was as he walked me down the aisle. Ryan's vows brought tears to everyone's eyes as he promised to choose me every day to build a life of honesty and partnership. The photos from that day show us looking at each other like we held the answers to everything important. Together, we saved for 2 years and purchased our dream home. A charming colonial with a wraparound porch in a neighborhood with tree-lined streets and excellent schools. We spent weekends painting walls, shopping for furniture that reflected both our tastes, and planting a garden I had meticulously designed. Our home became our sanctuary and the envy of our social circle. Speaking of our social circle, we had established weekend traditions that structured our life together. Friday night drinks with Ryan's colleagues and their spouses. Saturday morning farmers markets followed by brunch with my best friend Amanda and her husband James. Sunday dinners alternating between our parents' homes. We hosted legendary Christmas parties and summer barbecues that people talked about for months afterward. Ryan's career as an investment banker flourished. He specialized in healthcare acquisitions, working with large hospital groups and pharmaceutical companies. The hours were demanding, but he always said the intellectual challenge and financial rewards made it worthwhile. I supported his late nights and occasional weekend work because I understood ambition and the satisfaction of excelling in your field. Early in our marriage, we had the children conversation and mutually decided to prioritize our careers for the first several years. We agreed to revisit the topic when we turned 35, giving us time to advance professionally while still having options for starting a family. This decision felt mature and reasonable, reinforcing my belief that we approached life as true partners. Our connection stayed strong through regular date nights. Every Wednesday, no matter how busy work became, we'd try a new restaurant or cook an elaborate meal together at home. The fourth weekend of each month was sacred for us too, reserved for experiences rather than things. We took cooking classes, went hiking, attended concerts, or sometimes just drove to a nearby inn for a change of scenery. We traveled well together too. Annual anniversary trips to destinations on our shared bucket list. Paris 1 year, Bali another, a safari in Tanzania for our 5th anniversary. Ryan always handled the logistics while I planned our daily activities. We balanced sightseeing with relaxation, taking countless photos of breathtaking views with our arms wrapped around each other. Looking back, there were small signs I ignored. The business trips that suddenly came up with minimal notice. Text messages that made him smile privately before quickly putting his phone away. Late night calls he would take in his home office with the door closed. a growing emotional distance that I attributed to work stress and the natural evolution of a long-term relationship. Amanda noticed before I did. You and Ryan seem a little disconnected lately, she mentioned during one of our solo brunches when our husbands were both working. Everything okay? We're fine, I assured her. Just busy with work. You know how it goes. She gave me a look that I now recognize as concern. Just make sure busy doesn't become distant. James and I had that phase, and it took real work to find our way back. I dismissed her warning, confident that what Ryan and I had was different, unshakable, built on a foundation of mutual respect and communication. The night before everything changed, we had dinner at home. I made his favorite pasta dish, and he brought home an expensive bottle of wine. We talked about an upcoming vacation to the Amalfi Coast, planning which towns to visit and restaurants to try. He seemed engaged, affectionate, even kissing me as I cleared the dishes and telling me how lucky he felt to have me in his life. I went to bed that night feeling content, unaware that in less than 24 hours, my perception of my marriage would shatter completely. The discovery happened on a Tuesday night. I remember it was Tuesday because I'd had a particularly challenging presentation at work that day, followed by a tense client meeting that left me with a splitting migraine. I texted Ryan around 7 to let him know I was coming home early and planned to go straight to bed. Don't wait up, I wrote. This headache is brutal. His response came quickly. Feel better, honey. I'll be home around 11 after my dinner meeting. I'll be quiet when I come in. When I got home, I took 2 migraine pills, drew the blackout curtains in our bedroom, and fell into a heavy sleep almost immediately. The medication always made me drowsy, pulling me into a deep, dreamless state that usually lasted through the night. I'm still not sure what woke me. Perhaps it was some deep-seated intuition, or simply the shifting of the mattress as Ryan got into bed next to me. Whatever it was, I found myself conscious but groggy at what the bedside clock told me was 2:14 a.m., much later than the 11 o'clock he had promised. I kept my eyes closed, still feeling the dull throb of my headache behind my temples. I was about to murmur something to Ryan when I realized he was moving carefully, deliberately, as though trying not to disturb me. I felt him pause, probably checking to see if I was still asleep. Then the mattress lifted slightly as he got back out of bed. The light from the ensuite bathroom spilled briefly to the bedroom as he slipped inside and partially closed the door, leaving just a crack of light. Then I heard it. His voice hushed and intimate in a way that sent an immediate chill through me. Hey, I know it's late, he whispered. I just needed to hear your voice before I went to sleep. A pause as he listened to whoever was on the other end of the call. I miss you too, Sophia. God, dinner with the partners went on forever. All I could think about was you, Sophia. The name hit me like a physical blow. I'd never heard Ryan mention anyone named Sophia before. I know, he continued softly. 2 more weeks and we'll have the whole weekend. Just you and me at the lake house. My heart began pounding so hard I feared he might hear it from the bathroom. Lake house. We didn't have a lake house, and Ryan had told me he had a conference in Chicago in 2 weeks. You have no idea how much I want that too, he murmured, his voice taking on a tender tone I recognized from the early days of our relationship. Being with you feels right in a way I can't even explain. I felt nausea rising in my throat. My hands began to tremble against the sheets. It's complicated, you know that, he said after another pause. But I meant what I said yesterday. You're who I want a future with. I just need a little more time to figure out the logistics. Logistics. He was talking about leaving me, planning it. The realization hit me with stunning clarity. You're unbettable, you know that. His voice softened further. The way you understand me, the way we connect. I've never had that with anyone before. The blatant lie froze the air in my lungs. He'd said almost those exact words to me in his wedding vows. I should go, she's asleep and I don't want to risk waking her up, Ryan whispered. But I'll call you tomorrow during my lunch break. There was another pause, longer this time. I love you too, Sophia, more than I ever thought possible. Sweet dreams. Something in me shifted in that moment. The initial shock gave way to a cold, clear focus. With trembling hands, I reached for my phone on the nightstand, careful not to make any noise. I opened the voice recorder app and held it toward the bathroom door, capturing the tail end of his conversation. Can't wait to hold you again. It's agony sleeping next to her now. You're all I think about. I promise we'll be together soon, babe. This is real. What we have is real. I stopped the recording as I heard him ending the call. Quickly, I placed my phone back on the nightstand and resumed my position. Eyes closed, breathing deliberately slow and even. The bathroom light disappeared as Ryan opened the door fully and padded back to bed. The mattress dipped as he slid under the covers. I felt him lean over me, his breath warm against my hair, as he placed a gentle kiss on my forehead. The tenderness of the gesture, now knowing what I knew, made my stomach turn. But I maintained my facade of sleep even as he settled beside me and his breathing eventually deepened. I lay there in the dark, eyes wide open now, staring at the ceiling as the minutes ticked by on the clock. My mind raced through every moment of our marriage, re-examining memories through this new, terrible lens. How long had this been going on? Who was Sophia? How much of my life was a lie? One thing was certain. Ryan believed I was asleep, but I had heard every word. And while he dreamed beside me of his future with another woman, I began to plan my next move. The next morning arrived after what felt like the longest night of my life. I must have drifted off eventually from sheer emotional exhaustion, but woke before the alarm with a sharp clarity that surprised me. Ryan was still asleep beside me, his face peaceful in a way that now seemed like the cruelest irony. I slipped out of bed and went through my morning routine on autopilot. Shower, makeup, hair, professional attire. By the time Ryan's alarm went off, I was in the kitchen brewing coffee and rehearsing how to act normal when everything had changed. "Morning," he said, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. "How's the headache?" "Better," I lied, turning to face him with a smile that felt like it might crack my face. "How is your dinner meeting?" "Productive but boring," he replied, reaching for a mug. "The Wilson account is finally moving forward." Another lie delivered without hesitation. I watched him closely, this stranger I'd been married to for 7 years. Did his eyes always shift slightly to the left when he lied? Had I just never noticed? "I need to pack," he said, glancing at his watch. "My flight to Pittsburgh leaves at 11. Pittsburgh, not Chicago, not a conference. How many business trips had actually been rendezvous with Sophia? "How long will you be gone?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. "Just 2 nights, back Thursday evening." I nodded. "Safe travels." After Ryan left for the airport, I called my office and did something I'd never done before. I requested a sick day. My boss, concerned because this was so out of character, didn't even question it. As soon as the house was empty, I began my investigation. I started in Ryan's closet, meticulously going through every pocket, shoebox, and drawer. In the inner pocket of a rarely worn suit jacket, I found my first piece of evidence. A receipt from Tiffany & Company for a platinum bracelet with a heart charm dated 3 months ago. Nearly $2,000 for jewelry I had never received or even seen. Next, I turned to his desk in the home office. The drawers yielded nothing unusual, but taped under the desktop, I discovered a small key. It took me 20 minutes of searching to find what had opened a locked file box in the back of his closet behind his golf clubs. Inside were statements from a credit card I didn't know existed. Scanning through the transactions, my breath caught. Hotel charges in New York, Boston, and Providence. Dinner reservations for 2 at restaurants we had never visited together. A charge for a weekend at a lakeside cabin rental in Vermont just 1 month ago, when he had told me he was at a financial summit in Denver. The most damning evidence came from his laptop. Ryan had always been careful about his passwords, but early in our marriage, I had watched him type in his master password for his password manager. He had no idea I'd memorized it, or that I occasionally used his laptop when mine was being repaired. A violation of privacy, perhaps, but nothing compared to his betrayal. I logged in and found his email. There were no messages to anyone named Sophia in his main inbox, but a quick search of his folders revealed one labeled Projects 2023 that contained nothing related to work. Instead, I found hundreds of emails between Ryan and Sophia Anderson. The earliest was dated 14 months ago. The most recent had been sent yesterday. My hands trembled as I opened the messages, each one another blow to the life I thought we had built. "Last night was amazing. The way you looked at me across the restaurant, I could barely wait until we got back to the hotel. I miss your scent on my skin. 3 more days until Boston. Sometimes I watch you at work and can't believe you're actually mine now." There were photos too. Sophia was beautiful with auburn hair and striking green eyes. Young, maybe mid-20s. They had taken selfies together in various locations, her head on his shoulder, his lips pressed to her cheek. They looked happy, in love. But it was an email from 2 weeks ago that truly crushed me. "I've been thinking about what you said, about us building a life together. I want that too more than anything. I'm working on tying up loose ends here. She deserves a clean break, not a messy scene. I promise by summer we'll be starting fresh, just you and me. Attached to this email was a photo of a sonogram. The subject line read simply, "Our future." The room seemed to tilt around me as the implications hit. Sophia was pregnant, with my husband's child. The child we had decided to wait for, the family we had planned to build together someday. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left. Then I sank to the floor, my back against the cool tile wall, and finally allowed myself to break. The sobs tore from my chest, violent and raw. I cried until my throat was sore, and my eyes burned until the tears simply stopped coming. When I could finally move again, I called the one person I knew would come right away. Amanda. "He's having an affair," I said when she answered, my voice barely recognizable. "And she's pregnant." 30 minutes later, Amanda was at my door with a bottle of wine and fierce determination in her eyes. She held me while I cried again, then helped me save copies of everything I had found onto a USB drive. "We need to be methodical about this," she said, her legal background coming through. "Document everything before he realizes you know. This isn't just about your heart, Leah. This is about your financial future, too." I nodded, grateful for her clarity when mine was shattered. "I need to know everything," I whispered. "The full extent of it." "Then that's what we'll find out," she promised. "And then we'll make sure he regrets ever thinking he could do this to you." With Amanda's support, I spent the next day diving deeper into the extent of Ryan's deception. What I had discovered so far was devastating enough, but my friend insisted we needed the complete picture. "My friend Diane is a divorce attorney," Amanda explained, pouring us both another glass of wine that evening. "She always says the ones who think they're clever about hiding affairs are usually hiding money too." "You think he's stealing from me?" I asked the idea, adding another layer of betrayal. "I think we should find out exactly what we're dealing with," she replied. "Diane works with a private investigator for her high-profile cases. Let me make a call." The next morning, I met with Michael Reeves, a former detective turned PI. He had kind eyes that contrasted with his no-nonsense demeanor, and he took detailed notes as I explained what I had discovered. "You said he's in Pittsburgh until Thursday," he asked. I nodded. "And you're certain that's a lie?" "The emails mentioned meeting Sophia at a lake house this trip," I explained. Michael tapped his pen against his notepad. "Then let's find out where he really is. Do you have access to his location sharing?" I hadn't even thought to check. Ryan and I had set up location sharing years ago for safety, but I rarely looked at it. When I pulled up the app on my phone, it showed him in a remote area outside Burlington, Vermont. "Definitely not Pittsburgh," Michael confirmed, making a note of the coordinates. "I can drive up there today, get photographic evidence of their meeting. It won't be pleasant for you to see, but if this goes to divorce court, it could be valuable." I swallowed hard, but nodded. "Do it." While Michael headed to Vermont, Amanda and I continued our investigation into Ryan's financial activities. We discovered he had opened a separate checking account 6 months ago that received regular transfers from our joint savings. Almost $40,000 had been methodically moved, a few thousand at a time. "He's building a nest egg to start over with her," Amanda said, her voice tight with anger on my behalf. Further digging revealed even more painful truths. Ryan had been interviewing for positions at investment firms in Chicago. He had applications in for apartment rentals in upscale neighborhoods there. He had been researching prenatal care providers in the Chicago area. Every discovery was another knife to my heart, but also fueled a growing determination. This wasn't just an affair or a momentary lapse in judgment. This was calculated long-term deception. The final blow came when Michael returned the next day with a thick envelope of photographs. There was Ryan arriving at a beautiful lakeside cabin in a rental car. And there was Sophia rushing out to greet him, her slightly rounded belly visible under her flowing top. The images of their embrace, his hand tenderly touching her stomach, his lips on hers, burned into my brain. "There's more," Michael said gently. I followed them into town for dinner. Their conversation was quite revealing. He placed a small digital recorder on the table between us. "Vermont is a one-party consent state for recordings," he explained. I was seated close enough to capture their dinner conversation legally. I pressed play, my stomach nodding as Ryan's familiar voice filled the room. "I've put in for the transfer to Chicago. My boss practically guaranteed I'll get it," he was saying. "The timing works out perfectly with your due date." "What about Leah?" Sophia's voice asked. "Have you decided how you're going to tell her?" There was a pause before Ryan responded. "I've been moving money into my private account. Once that's done, I'll tell her I want a divorce. Simple, clean break. She won't fight it. Ryan laughed, a sound I once loved but now made me nauseous. Leah, no, she's so focused on her career she'll probably be relieved. Besides, she has no idea about us or the baby. I've been careful. What about your friends, your family? I've already been laying the groundwork, telling everyone we've been growing apart. That we want different things. Nobody will be surprised. I stopped the recording, unable to bear any more. The casual dismissal of our 7-year marriage. The confidence that I would simply step aside, the realization that he had been poisoning our social circle against me. It was all too much. I found these two, Amanda said quietly, showing me her laptop screen. She had accessed Ryan's draft emails folder and found messages to his parents and brother, complaining about our failing marriage and how I had changed and become cold and career-obsessed. He's been crafting this narrative for months, she explained, setting it up so when he leaves, everyone will think it was your fault. I sat in stunned silence, trying to process the enormity of the betrayal. This wasn't just about Sophia or even the baby. This was about Ryan systematically dismantling our entire shared life while setting himself up for his new one. You need to divorce him immediately, Amanda urged. Diane can file the papers tomorrow. But as I stared at the photos of Ryan and Sophia, watching them plan their future while destroying mine, a different idea began to form. No, I said slowly, not yet. He thinks he's so clever, so careful. He has no idea what I know. I looked up at Amanda, a new resolve hardening within me. Before I end this marriage, I want him to understand exactly who he's been underestimating. Over the next few days, I transformed from a heartbroken wife into a strategic planner on a mission. The initial shock and pain hadn't disappeared, but they now shared space with a cold, clear determination. If Ryan thought he could dismantle our life together while I remained oblivious, he was about to learn otherwise. My first step was securing my financial future. The morning after Michael showed me the photos of Ryan and Sophia, I met with Diane, Amanda's divorce attorney friend. Her office was warm but professional, with degrees on the wall and family photos on her desk. A stark contrast to the dissolution of marriage we were discussing. Based on what you've shown me, we have a strong case, Diane explained, reviewing the evidence I'd brought. The infidelity, the financial deception, the pregnancy, it all works in your favor. I'm not ready to file yet, I told her, but I want everything prepared. Diane raised an eyebrow but nodded. We can draft all the paperwork and have it ready to go when you give the word. In the meantime, let's protect your assets. Under her guidance, I opened new bank accounts at a different bank, ones Ryan had no connection to. I transferred half of our joint savings, which was legally mine, into these accounts. I also updated the beneficiaries on my life insurance policy and retirement accounts, removing Ryan and naming my parents instead. What about the house? I asked. We had purchased it together, both names on the mortgage. Document everything in it that you brought into the marriage or purchased yourself, Diane advised. Take photos, find receipts if possible. When the time comes, we can negotiate a buyout of his share or force a sale and split the proceeds. Next, I focused on securing copies of all evidence. Every email, every photo, every bank statement went onto multiple USB drives, one kept in my office desk, one in a new safety deposit box, and one given to Amanda for safekeeping. I made recordings of the voicemails Ryan had left Sophia that I found on his computer and backed up the text message threads I discovered. While doing this, I uncovered even more deception. Ryan had taken out a life insurance policy on himself 6 months ago, with Sophia as the beneficiary. He had created a shared digital photo album titled Our Journey, with hundreds of pictures of their time together dating back over a year. He had even started a college fund for their unborn child. Each discovery strengthened my resolve. This wasn't a momentary lapse or a recent infatuation. This was calculated betrayal on a scale I could hardly comprehend. With my financial security in progress, I turned to my career prospects. If Ryan and I divorced, I might need to move from our home, possibly even leave Boston to start fresh. I reached out to former colleagues and mentors, testing the waters for potential opportunities. Actually, our New York office has been looking for a marketing director, my former boss mentioned during one of these conversations. Your experience would be perfect. Is that something you'd be interested in? I told her I was considering all options, keeping the door open while focusing on my immediate plan. Beyond Amanda, I began quietly rebuilding my support network. I had lunch with college friends I hadn't seen in months. I called my parents more frequently, though I wasn't ready to tell them about Ryan's betrayal yet. I even joined a weekly yoga class, seeking both stress relief and new connections outside our shared social circle. Throughout this process, I maintained constant awareness of Ryan's activities. I installed a tracker app on his phone while he slept, justifying the invasion of privacy by the magnitude of his deception. I set up small security cameras in our home office and living room areas, where he might make phone calls when he thought he was alone. The recordings were painful to watch, but confirmed the extent of his double life. Loving conversations with Sophia about nursery colors and baby names, discussions about their future home in Chicago, complaints about having to play the dutiful husband until everything was in place for his exit. I also recorded conversations where he lied directly to my face about his whereabouts or plans. When he told me he had a late meeting but the tracker showed him at a jewelry store, I later found the receipt for a pair of emerald earrings to match your eyes, according to the gift note he'd written to Sophia. Research into Massachusetts divorce laws revealed that while adultery could be grounds for divorce, it didn't necessarily impact financial settlements significantly. However, the financial deception, the transferring of joint assets without consent, those would matter to a judge. As my investigation continued, I set up multiple hidden cameras throughout our home, not in private spaces like bathrooms, but in areas where Ryan might reveal more of his plans. The footage confirmed my worst suspicions, capturing phone conversations where he discussed timeline details with Sophia. Another month, 6 weeks tops. He told her during one call from our kitchen while I was supposedly at a late meeting but had actually returned home quietly to set up another camera. The Chicago transfer is confirmed. I'm just waiting for the right bonus to hit, then I'll tell Leah it's over. Planning the perfect confrontation became my obsession. I wanted it to be public enough to prevent Ryan from controlling the narrative afterward, but not so public that it would become fodder for office gossip. It needed to be devastating but dignified. Most importantly, it needed to make absolutely clear that I had discovered everything. I created multiple financial safety nets, knowing that divorce, even with a good attorney, could be expensive and unpredictable. I sold some stocks I'd been holding, put the cash in my new accounts. I reduced unnecessary expenses, built up a cushion that could sustain me for 6 months without income if needed. Throughout this planning phase, the emotional toll was immense. Each night, I lay beside the man I had once trusted completely, pretending everything was normal, while my mind raced with the next steps in my plan. I maintained the facade of the loving wife, making his favorite meals, asking about his day, even being intimate when necessary to avoid suspicion. Amanda worried about the psychological impact of this performance. "You don't have to drag this out," she insisted during one of our strategy sessions. "We have enough evidence. You can end it now." But I shook my head. Not yet. He's been planning this for over a year, dismantling our life piece by piece. He doesn't get to walk away on his timeline. This ends on mine. As difficult as it was with each passing day, I felt my strength growing. The woman who had collapsed in tears on the bathroom floor was transforming into someone more formidable, someone who wouldn't be discarded and forgotten, someone who would make sure Ryan understood exactly what he was losing and how thoroughly he had failed at his deception. 2 more weeks, I decided. 2 more weeks of gathering evidence, securing my position, and perfecting my plan. Then Ryan would learn what happens when you underestimate the woman you promised to love forever. Ryan returned from Vermont refreshed and affectionate, bringing me an expensive scarf that I strongly suspected was a guilt purchase. He kissed me deeply at the door, told me he had missed me, and suggested we order from my favorite Italian restaurant. "You seem different," he commented as we ate dinner. "Good different, glowing almost." I smiled, wondering if what he saw was the calm determination that had replaced my initial devastation. "Just focused on some exciting projects at work," I replied. For the next 2 weeks, I played the role of devoted wife perfectly. I asked about his day, shared details of mine, maintained our routine of cooking together and watching our favorite shows. If he noticed any change in me, he seemed to attribute it to positive developments in my career rather than the knowledge of his betrayal. Meanwhile, I finalized every detail of my plan. The confrontation would happen at Maison Laurent, the upscale French restaurant where we'd celebrated our last anniversary. Ryan had suggested dinner there to mark 7.5 years together, a seemingly romantic gesture that I now recognized as part of his pattern of covering his tracks. "We should celebrate us," he'd said, marking the date on our shared calendar. "Before work gets crazy again for both of us." Before he left me for Sophia, he meant. Before he started his new family. The irony wasn't lost on me. I made a reservation for 3 using my work email to contact the restaurant directly. The maitre d' Jean-Philippe remembered us from our frequent visits and was discreetly helpful when I explained I was planning a surprise. Next came the most difficult part, contacting Sophia. I had debated this step extensively with Amanda, who worried about giving away my advantage, but I wanted both of them to understand the full extent of my knowledge. Using a temporary email address, I wrote to Sophia. I know about you and Ryan. I know about the baby, the Chicago plans, the lake house, all of it. He's been lying to both of us. If you want to know the truth, come to Maison Laurent this Saturday at 8 p.m. Ask for the Anderson party. I attached photos of Ryan and me in our home together, from that week, proof that contrary to whatever he had told her about our relationship being over in all but name, we were still very much living as husband and wife. I added a screenshot of our most recent text exchange, where he called me love and mentioned our future vacation plans. The night of the confrontation arrived cool and clear, a beautiful spring evening that belied the storm I was about to unleash. I dressed with particular care, choosing a fitted black dress that Ryan had always loved, subtle makeup that enhanced rather than masked my hair loose, the way he preferred it. Tonight wasn't about appealing to him, but about reminding him exactly what he was throwing away. Ryan picked me up from our house, having left work early to change and meet me. He whistled softly when he saw me. "You look stunning," he said, kissing my cheek. "I'm the luckiest man in Boston tonight." The casual lie no longer had the power to wound me. Instead, I felt a strange calm, the stillness before a decisive action. Maison Laurent welcomed us with their usual warmth. Jean-Philippe led us to the best table in the restaurant, a corner spot with privacy yet visibility, exactly as I had requested. Ryan ordered champagne, apparently in a celebratory mood. "To us," he said, raising his glass once the waiter poured. "And to our future," I clinked my glass against his, watching his eyes. "To truth," I replied, "and consequences." He looked momentarily puzzled but smiled and sipped his champagne. Our conversation flowed easily through appetizers, discussing work friends, a movie we'd recently watched. Anyone observing would have seen a happy couple enjoying a romantic evening. Only I knew what was coming. As our main courses arrived, the waiter approached with another bottle of champagne. "Compliments of another guest," he explained, presenting the bottle. Ryan looked confused. "Who would?" His question died on his lips as he looked toward the entrance. Following his gaze, I saw Sophia standing there, her pregnancy more visible in her fitted dress than it had been in the cabin photos. Her eyes found our table, and even from a distance, I could see the color drain from her face as she took in the romantic scene so at odds with whatever story Ryan had told her. The transformation in Ryan's expression was instantaneous and absolute. Shock, terror. His face went ashen, then flushed dark red. He half rose from his seat, then sank back down, his eyes darting between Sophia and me. "What? How?" he stammered as Sophia approached our table. I gestured to the empty chair I had arranged. "Please join us, Sophia. We have so much to discuss." Ryan's eyes widened in panic. "Leah, I can't explain." "Can you?" I interrupted, calmly opening my purse. I placed a stack of printed emails on the table. "Can you explain these messages, planning your new life in Chicago?" I added the bank statements showing his secret account. "Or these transfers from our joint savings?" Finally, I placed the ultrasound photo between us. "Or this?" His mouth opened and closed, no words emerging. Beside us, Sophia remained standing, her hand protectively over her belly. "You told me you were separated," she said, her voice trembling. "You said she knew that you were just waiting for the right time to make it official." "He told me he was in Pittsburgh last week," I replied, making eye contact with her for the first time. "While he was actually with you at the lake house in Vermont. Planning nursery colors, I believe." I pulled out my phone and played the recording from the restaurant, Ryan's voice filling the space between us. "Leah, no. She's so focused on her career she'll probably be relieved. Besides, she has no idea about us or the baby. I've been careful." His voice faltered on the recording, just as it did now when he tried to speak. "Leah, please, not here," he begged, suddenly aware of the nearby diners, who were beginning to notice the tension at our table. "Why not here?" I asked, my voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "You weren't planning to offer me the same courtesy of privacy when you left, were you? Your emails to your family made that clear." Sophia sank into the chair, tears streaming down her face. "You said your marriage was over," she whispered to Ryan. "You said you were just waiting for the right time." "He was waiting for the right bonus," I clarified, sliding another printed email across the table to her. "And for the Chicago transfer to be confirmed." Ryan reached for my hand, desperation in his eyes. Baby, please, we can work this out. It was a mistake. A 14-month mistake, I asked, arching an eyebrow. With a nursery and a life insurance policy, naming her as beneficiary. His face crumpled as he realized just how much I knew. He turned to Sophia, perhaps hoping for support, but found only betrayal mirroring his own. You made a life insurance policy for her, Sophia asked, her voice rising. What about our baby? What about the promises you made me? The restaurant had gone quiet around us, the drama at our table now, commanding attention despite the hushed voices. I hadn't planned on quite so public a scene, but found I didn't mind the witnesses. I gathered the evidence into my purse and stood. I forwarded all of this to my attorney, I said calmly. She'll be contacting you next week. I suggest you use the time to find somewhere else to live. Ryan stood too, panic evident in every line of his body. Leah, don't do this. Please, I love you. The words that once would have meant everything now rang hollow. I looked at him, really looked at the man I had built a life with, and felt nothing but pity. No, Ryan, you love yourself. You always have. I turned to Sophia, whose tears had given way to a cold anger that matched my own. He's all yours, though I'd recommend against trusting anything he says. I walked away, then straight-backed and steady, feeling the eyes of the restaurant on me. As I reached the door, I heard Ryan's voice pleading and broken, calling my name. I didn't look back. Outside, the cool night air filled my lungs. I had done it. Exposed the lies, confronted the betrayal, and walked away with my dignity intact. The marriage was over, but I was not. Not by a long shot. Ryan followed me to the parking lot, catching up as I reached my car. Leah, please let me explain, he begged, grabbing my arm. I looked pointedly at his hand until he released me. There's nothing to explain. I heard every word you said to her that night, Ryan. Every promise, every lie. I know everything. It wasn't real, he insisted. What I have with you is real. Had, I corrected. Past tense, and reality isn't something you get to define anymore. His face contorted with frustration and fear. What do you want, money? The house, tell me what it will take to fix this. I laughed, genuinely amused by his desperation. You still don't get it. This isn't fixable. You don't get to cheat for over a year, father a child with another woman, plan to leave me, and then bargain your way back when you're caught. But our history, everything we've built. You demolished it, I cut in. Methodically, deliberately, over many months. Now you get to live with the consequences. I got into my car, started the engine. Through the window, I delivered my final words to the man I had once thought would be my forever. My lawyer will contact yours. Don't come home. Whatever you need, you can arrange to collect when I'm not there. As I drove away, I watched in the rearview mirror as Ryan stood alone in the parking lot, the architect of his own destruction, finally facing the truth I had discovered in the dark of our bedroom just weeks before. The aftermath of the restaurant confrontation unfolded in ways both expected and surprising. Ryan bombarded me with calls and texts, alternating between desperate pleas for reconciliation and angry accusations about my public humiliation of him. I blocked his number after the first day, directing all communication through Diane. News of our separation spread quickly through our social circle. Several of Ryan's colleagues reached out to express their shock and support for me. Apparently, he had been less discreet about his affair than he imagined, bragging to select coworkers about his gorgeous younger girlfriend, while maintaining the facade of happy husband elsewhere. The divorce proceedings moved forward with unexpected efficiency. Faced with the mountain of evidence I had gathered, Ryan's attorney advised him against contesting the terms Diane proposed. He moved out of our home permanently, taking only his personal belongings and a few pieces of furniture we had agreed upon. In an ironic twist, the Chicago transfer he had been counting on fell through. The financial firm cited concerns about judgment and character after learning about the circumstances of our divorce from mutual connections. His carefully constructed exit strategy crumbled, leaving him scrambling both professionally and personally. I found unexpected solace in throwing myself into creating a new living space. The home we had shared felt tainted by his deception, every room holding memories I now questioned. I repainted walls, replaced the bedroom furniture, and rearranged spaces to reflect only my taste. Slowly, the house began to feel like mine alone. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I accepted the marketing director position in New York. The opportunity to start fresh in a new city, with a significant promotion, felt like the universe confirming I had made the right choice in ending my marriage. I put our Boston home on the market, and began apartment hunting in Manhattan. Therapy became a lifeline during this transition. My therapist, Dr. Winters, helped me process not just the betrayal, but the strength I had found in its aftermath. Many people collapse under this kind of deception, she noted during one session. You turned it into an opportunity for growth. I didn't feel strong when it first happened, I admitted. I felt destroyed. Strength isn't about not feeling pain, she replied. It's about what you choose to do with it. Amanda remained my rock throughout the process, helping with everything from packing boxes to vetting potential New York apartments via FaceTime. On the night before I left Boston, she organized a small gathering of my closest friends. To new beginnings, she toasted, raising her glass. And to the amazing woman who refused to be a victim. 6 months after discovering Ryan's betrayal, I had settled into my new life in New York. My apartment in the West Village was smaller than our Boston home, but filled with natural light and entirely my own. My new position challenged me professionally while offering the fresh start I had needed emotionally. On a crisp fall afternoon, I was leaving a lunch meeting when I literally bumped into someone on the sidewalk. Looking up to apologize, I found myself face to face with Sophia. The shock of recognition passed between us like an electric current. She looked different, her pregnancy now in its final stages, her face thinner but somehow more resolved. Leah, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought you moved to New York. I did, I replied. I'm here for work. What about you? An awkward silence stretched between us, these two women, connected by the same man's betrayal. Coffee, she suggested unexpectedly. I think maybe we should talk. 20 minutes later, we sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, mutual curiosity, overcoming the strangeness of our situation. He lied to me too, she said, cradling her tea with both hands. Almost everything he told me about your marriage was false. He said you were separated and all but paperwork that you knew about our relationship but were waiting to announce the divorce until after some work project. I wasn't surprised, but the confirmation still stung. When did you find out the truth? There were small inconsistencies all along, but I wanted to believe him. She looked down at her pregnant belly. After that night at the restaurant, I did my own investigating. Found out he had been seeing another woman before me, who he had told the same stories to. There was someone before you? I asked, genuinely shocked despite everything. She nodded. A pattern, apparently. He'd been doing this for years, cultivating relationships with different women, telling each of us what we wanted to hear. We talked for over an hour, piecing together the complex web of lies Ryan had spun. Sophia had ended their relationship immediately after the restaurant confrontation, refusing his subsequent attempts to reconcile, just as I had. She had moved from Boston to New York to be closer to her sister and was planning to raise her daughter alone. I'm sorry, I told her as we prepared to leave. Not for exposing the truth, but for the pain it caused you. She shook her head. Don't be. You did me a favor. Better to know now than after marrying him. She managed a small smile. Besides, we both got away from him. Some women aren't so lucky. 1 year after the night, I heard Ryan's whispered phone call. My divorce was finalized, my career was thriving, and I had purchased a small but perfect apartment overlooking Central Park. The woman who had once built her life around being Ryan's wife now defined herself entirely on her own terms. Dating again came slowly. Trust didn't come easily after such profound betrayal, but I eventually opened myself to the possibility of connection again. Approaching relationships with new boundaries and heightened awareness of red flags I had previously ignored. On a business trip back to Boston, I unexpectedly ran into Ryan. He looked diminished somehow. His designer clothes replaced with an off-the-rack suit that hung loosely on his frame, dark circles shadowing his eyes. He spotted me across the hotel lobby and approached hesitantly. Leah, he said, his voice carrying none of the confidence I remembered. You look amazing. Thank you, I replied, polite but distant. I heard about your promotion and the feature in Marketing Monthly. I always knew you were destined for big things. The awkward small talk continued briefly before he finally got to what seemed to be weighing on him. I lost everything, he admitted. The Chicago job, my reputation at the firm. Even my parents barely speak to me after what I did to you. He ran a hand through hair that showed premature strands of gray. Sophia won't let me be part of my daughter's life. I felt no satisfaction from his downfall, only a distant pity for the man who had once been the center of my world. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, meaning it despite everything. I think about that night all the time, he continued. You hearing me on the phone planning everything while I had no idea. You were always smarter than I gave you credit for. It wasn't about being smart, I told him. It was about finally trusting my instincts instead of your explanations. As I walked away from that final conversation, I realized something profound had shifted within me. The anger that had fueled me through the darkest days had transformed into something more valuable: wisdom. I had learned to trust myself implicitly, to recognize when something felt wrong, despite reassurances to the contrary. I had discovered strength I never knew I possessed, the kind that doesn't come from absence of pain, but from walking through it with your head held high. Most importantly, I had learned that forgiveness wasn't about excusing betrayal, but about releasing its hold on my future. I didn't forgive Ryan for his sake, but for my own, so that I could move forward unburdened by bitterness. The woman who had once defined herself as half of a perfect couple now stood confidently on her own, knowing her worth wasn't determined by someone else's ability to recognize it. The future stretched before me, full of possibilities I was finally ready to embrace on my own terms. I often think about that night when everything changed, when whispered words in the darkness revealed the truth of my marriage. In the moment, it felt like my world was ending. Instead, it was just beginning. Have you ever experienced that gut feeling that something wasn't right even when everything looked perfect on the surface? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to join me for more real conversations about life's unexpected turns. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings.